Did you know that one Chinese emperor kept over 3,000 concubines and built an elaborate secret garden just for his most scandalous escapades? But what drove these emperors to such extremes? What kinds of dirty amusements did these emperors engage in? Stay tuned as we uncover the lavish and the downright bizarre activities of the emperors who ruled China. You won't believe what we found. Imperial Chinese court life. As a visitor to the emperor's court, you must show respect by dropping to the floor and knocking your forehead on the ground 9 times, a ritual called kowtowing. This was just the start of the court's strict customs. Some emperors had unusual ways to test their ministers' loyalty. One story tells of an emperor who brought a donkey into the court and called it a horse. Ministers who called it a donkey were executed, but those who agreed and called it a horse were promoted. Emperors also liked to present themselves as scholars and art lovers. Emperor Qianlong, who reigned from 1736 to 1796, is a prime example. Known as China's last great emperor, Qianlong was a poet, calligrapher, and avid art collector. His reign saw significant cultural and artistic achievements. Court entertainment was lavish, with performers known as boqiong showcasing acrobatics, singing, dancing, magic, and feats of strength. These performances were a display of the emperor's power and ability to command the best talents. Banquets at the court were extravagant, with hundreds of dishes served. Emperors would take only a few bites from each dish, dining at a raised table to symbolize their elevated status. Imperial Chinese clothing. In the Chinese imperial court, every detail was meticulously planned, including attire. Court members had 3 clothing sets: regular, court, and ceremonial. The emperor's wardrobe stood out, featuring the finest silk, gold, pearls, jade, and more, with yellow reserved exclusively for him since the Sui dynasty. The emperor's accessories were equally luxurious, including belts, ceremonial hats, hairpins, bracelets, and fragrance pouches. Robes, especially from the Qing dynasty, were elaborately decorated with exquisite stitching and embroidered symbols. Qing emperors, originally horse people, wore garments with long horseshoe-shaped cuffs, as showing hands was considered impolite. Every piece of clothing symbolized status and role within the court. Imperial Chinese wealth. Their splendor rivaled that of the Bourbons of France, the Romanovs of Russia, the Habsburgs of Austria, and the Mughals of India. Today, their immense wealth is showcased in the Forbidden City in Beijing and the Palace Museum in Taiwan, which house treasures that once belonged to Chinese emperors. Emperors used grand 4-story umbrellas resembling pagodas and traveled in elaborate sedan chairs, always surrounded by an army of servants. Even signing documents was a spectacle, using vermilion ink and seals more valuable than the treasuries of most states. In death, as in life, the emperors and their court were enveloped in luxury. They were buried with gold cloth over their faces, rings on their fingers, and white silk shrouds embroidered with dragons and phoenixes. This richness starkly contrasted with the lives of common people who, though sometimes landowners, generally considered private property a gift from the state. Imperial Chinese violence. In ancient times, the imperial court was not just a place of grandeur and luxury. It was also a place where the most brutal punishments were devised. Traitors and spies faced the horrifying punishment of 5 horses split the body. Imagine being torn apart by 5 horses. This was meant to destroy a person not just on Earth, but in the hereafter as well. Officials who committed serious offenses were sometimes dismembered alive and even skinned to death. But perhaps the most notorious punishment was death by 1,000 cuts, a slow and agonizing process designed to inflict maximum pain. Emperors often killed their own family members, brothers, uncles, nephews, to eliminate rivals and secure their power. This ruthless quest for dominance didn't spare even the innocent. Imperial daughters often died young due to neglect, while those who speak ill of the emperor faced castration. It wasn't just the accused who suffered. Families, friends, and neighbors were often brutally punished alongside them. The Qing Yongzheng emperor was notorious for such collective punishments. On the battlefield, Chinese soldiers had a gruesome way of proving their bravery. They presented the heads of enemy soldiers to their emperor or generals. This wasn't for any religious or ritualistic reason. It was simply to claim their pay. Sometimes prisoners of war were sacrificed, other times they were deported to distant parts of the kingdom. Imperial Chinese concubines. Imperial concubinage wasn't all it was made out to be. For many, the grandeur of the palace was a gilded cage. The fate of many concubines was grim. Take, for instance, the 16th century Emperor Shizun. His reign was marked by cruelty and paranoia. Over 200 of his concubines reportedly died by his orders. Desperate to escape their grim fate, 16 members of Shizun's harem plotted to assassinate him. Under the cover of darkness, they snuck into his chamber armed with a silken scarf and a hairpin. They tried to strangle him and even stabbed him in the eye. But Shizun's empress intervened, saving his life. The punishment for the rebellion was brutal. The concubines had their limbs torn from their bodies and their heads were displayed on poles as a gruesome warning to others. In the hierarchical world of the palace, there were 8 levels of concubines. Despite the competition, concubines and eunuchs often formed close friendships, finding solace in their shared circumstances. Interestingly, emperors did not limit their affections to women. Male consorts were also a part of the imperial court. According to legend, the Han Dynasty Emperor A once said he would rather cut off the sleeve of his robe than disturb his male lover who had fallen asleep on it. This act of tenderness gave rise to the phrase, the passion of the sleeve, which is still used in China to refer to homosexuality. These dirty amusements were the dark side of the grandeur and glory of ancient China. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, give us a huge thumbs up and subscribe for more content.